And welcome back to Music Free Static. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And I've been on this reminiscing journey, over the last few weeks. It's weird this time of year because 4 years ago, I don't know, maybe tomorrow? What's the date? I don't know. But 4 years ago, my dad died. Okay. And this sort of destroyed my life in a lot of ways. And I've been picking myself back up. But it's got me thinking about all the things that have been triggering memories, originally of him, but just in general, right? So you ever think about those things, like you hear a song and you're instantly transported back to when you were hearing that song, right? So for example, there's the song, what's it, Right Here Waiting for You, I think by Richard Marx, I think it is. It was on the radio constantly in the 80s. And when I hear that song, I'm immediately back sitting on the floor playing on my Nintendo, right? Or Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins, and I'm immediately back on my Commodore 64 playing playing games. There was one racing game I talked about on the Commodore 64 podcast I did a couple months ago now at this point, but there was one racing game that had a really twisty track, and my sister and I called that the Danger Zone, the one section of the track, and because we were kids and it made sense and it was funny. But yeah, when I hear Danger Zone, yeah, that comes up for me. Yeah, I watched a ridiculously large amount of Top Gun. I watched Top Gun way too many times. Okay, but it's that racetrack that comes back to me when I hear the song. Okay. It's this is the type of thing I was thinking about, is what are these types of songs or sounds or whatever that just trigger memories, right? Now, in some ways, yeah, movies will do this a lot. Because I grew up watching movies with my dad, and we'd sit down he'd make dinner, we'd go into the living room on a couple of TV trays, right? Because we were bachelors, right? And we'd eat dinner off TV trays, and we would put on a movie. And I think I talked about it last week when I talked about the movie El Dorado. But that's just one of those movies that I watch, and it reminds me of my dad. Or The Alamo, also starring John Wayne, right? Or a bunch of old black and white movies like Arsenic and Old Lace, right? These are movies I never would have seen were it not for my dad. And so watching some of these, it's like, yeah, the movie is great. The movie's fun. I'll like some of these movies. But part of the reason I like them is the environment that I saw them in. That living room with my dad. Hostess cupcakes are another one, right? The really sort of garbage cream-filled chocolate cupcakes, right? They've got the icing with the white swirly along the top, right? Hostess cupcakes. One of my very earliest memories, it had to have been from my third birthday, is of a Hostess cupcake. And I remember sitting down at our table, and it said it was my birthday, and my dad giving me a Hostess cupcake. He put a candle in it. So I blew out the candle and stuff. That was my birthday cake for my third birthday. And I remember him telling me, "Oh yeah, the swirlies is your name written in cursive," right? Yes, my dad was 100% lying to me. But this is what he could do. Why? Because just a couple of months earlier, my mom walked out on him. Right? Well, actually, she didn't walk out. He kicked her out because she was having an affair. And so here he was, a single father. What do you do for your 3-year-old son when money was really tight and he didn't know how to bake? That was not one of his skills. Okay. And so he got me a Hostess cupcake. So anytime I see those cupcakes, that is just indelibly burned into my core memories of, yeah, here's a cupcake. And I didn't know what all was going on. I know it just mom wasn't there and dad was giving me this really cool, I get a whole cupcake to myself. It was awesome, right? Now, music has played a huge part of my life. Despite the name of the podcast, Music Free Static, I love music. Okay. In fact, the title of the podcast, Music Free Static, is in fact a callback to my dad. Because when he was in college, he was a DJ. And he called his show Music Free Static because the radio station, the college radio station, was such a low-powered radio station that pretty much the only thing you got was static, right? So he was, that was the joke, is right, here's the radio station bringing you hours of music-free static. So I took that name when I started a podcast years ago, of course now, and then that, for various reasons, it became also Music-Free Gaming, which is my gaming channel. And then again, when I restarted the podcast, it stayed Music-Free Static. But music has been a huge part of my life because I listen to music all the time, right? I love it. But there are some songs that just call back to fun points in my life and are signals. Sometimes they're fun. One of them's not. I'll get to that here in a minute. But like Weird Al. I used to listen to Weird Al constantly. This was back when Weird Al actually would get radio play, right? Remember those days before Spotify and before Pandora and before internet music services that would just dial in a radio station just for you? We had to listen to whatever was on the Pop 40 station. And Weird Al was on a lot. So I had Weird Al CDs, right? And of course, I was good. I made mixtapes and different things like that. Well, there was one day I was picking up my daughters from dance. And, they were fun and giggly. And I can't remember how old they were, 7 or 8, something like that. I picked them up from dance and we were going home. And I knew that Weird Al's Lasagna was coming up. It was the next song on the playlist. So I drove a little bit slower to be sure that they got to hear it. But I picked them up. Whatever song was listening was ending, and they were giggling, whatever. And Lasagna comes on. Of course, it starts with that little accordion, really short accordion intro, and then it goes into, the La Bamba melody. And it dun 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 dun, and I can't sing, so that melody is probably not close. But it starts, and then here, the kids are like, still giggling, whatever. And then it starts, la 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 lasagna, and I hear from the back, wait, what? And of course the song goes, and if you have not heard it, go find Weird Al's Lasagna, okay, and just bask in the glory that is this song. But the song just goes on, and my girls are just getting more and more like, what is this song? But it was, I don't know if it was a full introduction to Weird Al, but it was pretty close. And for me, that's one of those moments of introducing my children to the things I love and the weird things that I love, okay? Despite my best efforts, I think only one of my kids likes Star Wars, okay? Heck, most of my kids don't even like movies, which is, given what I said about growing up and just watching movies with my dad. But they all picked up a love of weirdness. And I don't know that Weird Al's Lasagna was the start of that for my oldest girls. But it is definitely one of those key moments for me where it's like, congratulations, dude, you did something right. Because there is nothing better about being a parent sometimes than introducing your kids to the weird things that you love and them picking up on it. Right? And, I know that they've definitely picked up some of the things. Especially, I know my kids really fell for anime. Now, I was not a huge anime fan. When I was growing up, I couldn't find it, right? I watched Robotech and Voltron, and I remember Manzinger, but that one didn't really stick with me as something that I kept going back to find and to watch. But what they did get was a love for what they want to love, right? What they want to like. And yes, I watched Robotech, and I watched other things with them. But the fact that they sort of went off onto that the various levels of sci-fi and fantasy is fabulous, right? Now, whether I said can claim credit for any of that, I don't know. But these are the types of memories that for me call back and say, yes, this was awesome. I have a picture of my oldest daughter when she was 5, maybe. She was really little, and I think it was she had to have been in that 4 and 5 year old age range because we were in the auditorium waiting for we was waiting for dress rehearsals for her dance group, right? Right. She went to this little dance school in town, and here she was in her costume, and she was all excited because she was going to be in her costume and she was going to dance on stage, but they were patiently waiting her turn. She was for that age group to go, but on stage was the older kids, and I don't know if it was the advanced ballet class or not. Probably was. So here they are. Here are the big kids in point shoes doing ballet, probably badly because unless there were some really good dancers. Don't get me wrong, but I got a picture of my daughter, and yeah, it was a cheap camera. It was dark, but there was just sort of I don't know if it was the flash or just how the light worked, but it lit up around her, and here she is in costume. Her red hair is shining almost, and she is just looking in awe at these dancers. And for me, that is a picture that not only brings back that, but brings back years of trips to the dance studio so that she could dance. It was years of taking her um to rehearsals, to dance camps, to later after to college to audition for the dance program there. Later taking her to the airport multiple times so she could go audition for dance companies. And seeing her dance, right? But all of that whole history ties back to that one photo of her. When I see that photo, that's what comes back for me. Is yes, this little girl staring in awe at these dancers and then getting to be one. These are the sorts of memories that get triggered, and I love it. And there's so many things, right? I think we lose something when we've just gone to digital, that we don't have the actual photographs. Because I know I don't pull out the photo album anymore, right? It's like, what photos do I have? Well, I took some on my phone. Did I save them? What did I do with them, right? But those are the things. Those are the moments that stand out when you start look at this. As much as people make fun of it, Nickelback song, look at this photograph, right? The memories that get triggered by a photograph, right? Or a video or something, right? I already mentioned that there's music, right, that calls me. One of the songs I said not all of these are happy memories. One of the songs that gets me is the song Don't Take the Girl. I think it's by Tim McGraw. I heard this song when I was in high school. I think it had just come out, and I'm a romantic at heart. Okay, I truly am. And I remember hearing "Don't Take the Girl" as it tells the story through almost three little vignettes. Four, really. It tells the story of this kid's life. Two kids' lives, actually. And it starts with this kid. He and his dad are going to go fishing. When this little girl comes into the front gate holding a fishing pole, she's going to come fishing with them. And here's this little boy. He's like, no, do whatever, okay? But don't bring this girl fishing with us, right? And then flashes forward to high school. Same kid, same girl. They're dating. They've been out to a movie or something. They're coming out. They're heading to the car, and they get jumped. And this robber grabs the girl, sort of as a hostage to so that the guy will give him his wallet or whatever. And he says, okay, yeah, here's my watch, here's my wallet, here's my car keys, but don't take the girl. Flash forward one more scene, and boy and the girl are married. They're in the hospital. She's giving birth, right? It should be a joyous occasion. And there's complications with the pregnancy. And that's his prayer as he's sitting there praying with God, and it's just, don't, I'll take her place, but don't take the girl. And then the fourth, it's flash forward one more time. Now he's the father with his son, taking him fishing. But what this part of the reason this song is so emotional for me, you can hear I'm fighting back tears here as I'm talking about it, is I was driving back to college with my young family. My wife and I, we'd been married for a month. My daughter had been born 4 days ago. And we were driving back to college. School was starting in a week. We had to be back because we were both in the marching band. Band camp had just started. It was starting on Monday. So we were driving, and from her parents' place in Utah, or her mom's place where we were, where she had the baby, and we were there. And then said we were driving back to school here in Colorado, and we were driving through the night, and I fell asleep at the wheel. Don't sleep and drive, people. Okay, it doesn't work. I joke, but seriously, if you're tired, find a place to pull over and sleep. So, crashed the car, and now I'm in the hospital, and my new little baby looked so small in a hospital bed, hooked up to machines that she should never have had to be around. My wife had a concussion. She had no short-term memory. It's easy to laugh at Finding Nemo and the character of Dory, who has short-term memory loss. That was my wife. She couldn't remember what I told her just 5 minutes before. It's not funny. It's not. And as much as I like the movie Finding Nemo, I have a hard time with Dory. Because I lived with that with my wife after the wreck. Because she had a concussion and she had no short-term memory. But yeah, I sat there in the waiting room, and that was the song that was in my head, was Don't Take the Girl. And let me tell you something about service. I'm sitting there in the waiting room, right? They're treating my wife. She's got a concussion. She had broken ribs, um, probably something else. My daughter is on life support, and I'm sitting there in the waiting room not knowing what's going on. Just there's nothing I can do. What's sitting there with me was, I think, the bishop and one of his counselors from local the local ward of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I don't know how they knew. I'm sure when I was filling out paperwork that I put down that my wife was LDS. I wasn't a member, but I'm almost certain that I did. I filled that out. And so these two guys were sitting there with me. I have no idea who they are. I know we sat there mostly in silence. But they sat there with me. And a couple of days later, after my daughter had died, and we were back home in our new apartment that we were very excited to be able to start the next semester of school with our new daughter, and now it was just us again. And one of them had packed up all the stuff that we had in my little Geo Metro as we were driving back, and he drove the 3 hours or whatever it was from the hospital, from the town where that hospital was, to our apartment to bring us all of our stuff, everything for our life. And I still have no idea who he was. I don't know. I don't know his name. But when I listen to the song Don't Take the Girl, I'm taken back not necessarily to all the pain of sitting there in that hospital room, but all of the love that I have for my family. All of that is there, that triggered by that song. Needless to say, I don't listen to it often. It's a great song. I love it. But these are the types of things that, hey, it's amazing what sticks and what triggers and what keeps those memories around. But there are other things too. Smells. Yes, so it's amazing how a smell will trigger things, you know? Some people talk about, oh yeah, the smell of a perfume, right? That your wife wears or something like that. Now, my wife doesn't typically wear perfume, so that's not a thing for me. But there are a number of smells that it's like, yeah, all sorts of things come. For me, fall is the smell of roasting chilies. Because for the last 20 some odd years, I've lived in southern Colorado where roasting chilies are a thing. Every summer, or at the end of summer, every fall, you can smell the places everywhere are roasting chilies, right? And you can go to the farmer's market and buy bushels of Hatch or Pueblo chilies. And if you want them roasted, right, they've got the big wheels, you know, and you just see them, they're spinning that sucker as the chilies roast. Oh, I'll tell you, putting some fresh roasted chilies in an enchilada is so amazing. Just saying. But the number of years that we would go to the farmer's market and get fresh chilies, and we'd sit down as a family and make salsa, and we would make up pints and pints of salsa. Actually, I think we actually did quarts of salsa for a while because we're going through it fast enough. But we'd can up all of this salsa, and we would have that batch for the next couple of years because it's just so much better than something like Pace. right. It's just a smell that sticks to me. It's like, yes, it smells like roasting chilies, which are delicious and amazing. But it also brings back those memories of, all right, your job is to help peel tomatoes, and your job is to do this, and all seven of us in the kitchen or at the table canning up salsa, or the smell of gun oil, right? You know, every once in a while, I'll, those times, okay, I've got to pull out gun oil for something or other, and just I always think back of those times. Dad would be either spread out on the floor or at a. Sometimes he was able to do it on a TV tray if he was cleaning one of his pistols, and he'd be there because my dad was a cop. He had to shoot and qualify regularly, and when you shoot, you've got to clean the gun. So we'd have dinner and we'd put out a movie, and often I said not often, but regularly, he'd be pulling out the gun kit so that he could clean his gun. Now, that smell of gun oil brings me back to those days, right? And you don't always know, right? It's every once in a while, a song will come on. And it's like, yep, I'm back right there at my chair playing on the Commodore because Richard Marx is playing, right? Or any of those 80s pop singers, right? Because I listened to the top 40 station more often than not when I was a kid, and they played those songs a lot. I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't know what a rotation was for a radio station. Where yes, they play them a lot because they're, I don't know if they're contractually obligated, but they play the same songs every 4 hours. My sister and I used to call them rut songs. But yeah, we heard them all the freaking time. And but yeah, there are some songs, they'll come on, and my memory is of Super Mario Brothers 3 because that's what was playing as we would sit and try to beat Mario 3. Back in the day when there were no saves, you couldn't save. You had to start from World 1-1 if you wanted to beat the game. So it was, oh. So, it's one thing to have the memories, and I definitely treasure all of them, even those ones that are hard. But having those triggers to help you remember, those are also amazing. So, until next time, be excellent to each other. And this is Music Free Static signing off.